I'm looking forward to these kids next year showing people that rolled over and playing dead, and that we'll come back and give our best effort next year. I think the seniors never gave up, and were great role models. And Steve is an excellent role model. He gets in that weight room and he comes to the workouts in the summertime, 7-on-7, and that's what you have to have. When we get the edge, then they'll have to be concerned about us every season. And we're not far from having that edge. And Steve Dick is going to be crucial to our football team next year. Steve? Another one of our football players that I thought showed a great deal of emotion and a lot of enthusiasm. He got banged up and eventually he had to play with a cast on, but Aaron truly loves the game, and I think that next year is going to be his. Sometimes the problem with is that if your star shines, and it shines bright, but it shines fast, and it burns fast. And that happened to us a little bit this year, but that's just kind of an observation. It's not an excuse or anything. And I've always said this: I want that star to burn brightest when you're a senior. And so we had some things that just didn't work out for us. But I know that he was frustrated for some of the injuries that he had, and he was told at one point in time that he couldn't play anymore in the season. And I know his mother said that the doctor wasn't going to keep him from the football field, and I don't think that anybody is going to keep him from being successful next fall. He's another person that we're going to count heavily on, and we're looking forward to a great season out of him next year. Aaron Hubbard. Next one of our juniors is a person that he got an injury and that kept him out of some of the games. Derek reminds me, he reminds me of a guy that plays for the Dallas Cowboys. Huh? He just has that kind of charisma about him. And when he gets on the field, he rubs off on the rest of the players. And so I don't want to say Dion around him for fear that, he'd misconstrue that he's going to be prime time. But he has the capability of making things happen on the football field. And so we want him to shine next year when he gets to be a senior, with that opportunity that comes along, because he is a person that excites the other players, excites even the coaches. I mean, we were impressed with him last year when he came up as a sophomore at the end of the season, and even for us coaches, he was just something about him that gets everybody going. So he has a lot of enthusiasm for the game. He's got to mature. He has to do things the right way. And there isn't a person out here that probably doesn't like Derek, because of the fact that we know that he's got that athleticism that makes things, and he did some outstanding things this year for us, and punt returns and kickoffs and running the ball until he got hurt. So he's somebody that we're all going to pull for, right? And we're going to all help him and mentor him and get him going in the right direction, so that he can truly let his star shine like we know that he can. And it's going to take a lot of us, and not just one or two of us, but a lot of us, to show him that the family of Grand Ledge, that he's part of us, and we want him to be successful. So, Derek? I just wanted Eric's not here tonight because he's still hobbling around or spinning around his wheelchair and everything. But I know that there wasn't apparent when I started over towards the stands that when you couldn't tell who it was that was down on the field at Jackson, I think everybody was holding their breath, for the, the bad news that was about to come forward and everything. So Eric's doing better. Dr. Ross took him back in and kind of manipulated that leg again to see if they could reset it because it was off just a little bit. And so he's doing pretty good though, and he's got to wear his cast for how much longer, Jason? But I think he's back on the schedule a little bit. Yeah, he might get his walking cast in a couple weeks, but so he's the next one of our juniors, along with Luke, did a great job in the defensive line, and Patrick. I know that he was tired after the Brighton game because he chased that, quarterback all night long. And Pat got through there and got in and harassed him. And Patrick's another one of our juniors that we're going to count on heavily next year. And we hope that he will have a season that will top the one that he had this year. He played outstanding football. Patrick really did a good job at times. Got sick early part of the season, but eventually came back and did an outstanding job, and we're looking for big things out of him next year. Patrick Barlow. So we're getting right down here. Next one of our young men that is wrestling this year, and I think that Chris showed us that as the season went along, that he's going to be a contributor. We just have to figure out all these places to put all these people, and I know that that's not going to be an easy task, but it's one that we look forward to. We said last year when we stood here that we were going to try to play 60 players, and we came pretty darn close to that. And a lot of the kids got some good playing time this year, and we look forward to these juniors and sophomores and upcoming players because we think that they're going to give the Grand Ledge fans something more to cheer about, just like our seniors did over the last 4 years. So Chris Gentry got some valuable playing time, practiced hard, and I think that he's a person that's athletic and is going to be a contributor for us next year. Chris Gentry. Victor Preston did not make a bad snap on a punt, field goal, or on extra points. That is remarkable. That is remarkable. I thought nobody is going to top Andy Brown for his consistency and accuracy and everything else. I mean, Victor did an absolute tremendous job. I mean, you don't know how much pressure there is on the guys that sit and snap the ball in all those kind of situations. And when Victor got into the game, he showed that he is going to be somebody to be reckoned with next year. He's another one of those highly intelligent players, and a good student, and somebody that we're going to count on heavily. I mean, Greg, for the last 3 years at center, calling a lot of the blocking schemes and everything, and having that responsibility, and that's something that is going to fall on Victor's shoulders. Something I think that he's going to be more than capable of standing up to the challenge, and in the weight room and getting stronger is important. And if we were all in the same boat where we all played 3 sports and we played against each other in all things, being equal, but at the AA level, there aren't many players that are playing more than one sport. Rockford discourages their guys from playing other sports, which I think is extreme, obviously, but they want them in that weight room all winter long and all spring and summer to see how strong they can get. But Victor is certainly, with all those seniors graduating in that offensive line, Victor Preston is the key for us. And I know that he'll step up to the challenge. He did a great job this year. Victor Preston. Joe McDonald was a young man that played a lot of offense last year. We put him over on defense this year. We're probably putting him back to offense next year. And Joe has assured me that every day in history class, he tells me about that he realizes that playing against the seniors all year gave him enough hard knocks that he knows what has to be done. He has to be in the weight room. He has to get stronger. And for some of the players that, as I was looking through that All-State team, and you see the one kid from Rockford that made it as a tackle, 6'7.5", 315 pounds. I mean, that's what AA football's about. You aren't going to find our league 220 pounds, 230 pounds is a running back. They're linebackers. I mean, and when we played in school, I mean, that was that guy automatically went to tackle. That he weighed 225 pounds, and he was considered to be a big man. And now these guys are playing at 300 plus. So Joe knows what it takes, and he's had some certainly hard knocks against that first offensive line enough times that if he realizes that he's got the potential to step up there and play, because that's where we're going to need him, is when we graduate all of these big seniors in June of 2000. So Joe McDonald. Next one of our junior linemen is another person that I think is probably one of the most unselfish players on the team, certainly somebody that's gone through a lot of adversity. And I'm not going to embarrass him by saying about all the things that he's had to overcome. I think a lot of you parents are aware, and when I know all the players are aware, that Clint has come to all the workouts, gone to every practice, and has probably been one of the most supportive players in our program. And I know that standing off on the side when he'd be sick, and at first a lot of us thought, like last summer when the guys were working out over to Marsh Field and everything, and at first we thought, well, geez, he may be just not in good condition. And then, of course, it dawned on us that, he was taking a lot of medication and things that he probably shouldn't even have been there. But there was no way that Clint Dietzman was not going to be out there, was not going to be part of the program and doing things that, once again, I mean, only we're so lucky that when we look at our children and we think that, but by the grace of God, there go I. And so this young man, to me, is probably one of the people that I have most respect for, and I have a lot of respect for these guys. And Clint just has overcome a lot of things and sticks to it. And I don't think any of the players have any more respect for each other than they do for Clint Dietzman. Clint? Another one of the offensive linemen that didn't get... when you lined up every day of practice and you had to go up against all the players, I know that it's really tough for the underclassmen to, go against Skip and Jason and Brian and Greg and Andy. I mean, holy cow, just even in the drill work, those guys were getting knocked around. But I think that Brian Christensen saw and was able to observe that what the caliber is, and he's none of it. He's got to get in the weight room. He has to, if at this level, there isn't anybody that's going to come and say, oh, you guys are nice and grand legs, we're not going to play very hard against you. I mean, we know better than that, and so he knows what he has to do. And this is something that if you don't do it, I mean, it's the camaraderie of going there, it's being in the weight room with your friends and your classmates. It builds a special bond. These seniors have a special bond with each other, and I think that the underclassmen and the juniors have that same kind of bond. And now they have to work on getting those other guys to come up here and do the same thing at this next level, which is the toughest level to play. So I'm hoping that he will do all the things that we want him to do, and then when it's his senior year, he gets a lot more playing time. Brian Christensen. when Joe Wolshai takes the field, people look at him, I'm sure that they probably think that his number 80 is worn for, not that he's going to be a split-out wide receiver. And Joe has certainly done a great job for us the last 2 years, and he's going to be another one. You know, we've already said, you know, next year it could be less of a two-platoon system, and it could be more guys having to play two ways. We don't, you know, if you're going to have 60 guys on the team, you try to get them all as much playing time as you can. But Joe has had 2 very successful seasons for us, and next year, don't be surprised if you see him on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's almost a guarantee. And he's going to be like some of the other kids. He's just going to get a chance to play two ways, and without compromising the idea of being too tired in the fourth quarter and trying to play as many players as we can. But Joe's done an outstanding job. He had 23 catches this year, and so he had a great season for us, and we're looking for another outstanding student and all academic. And so Joe does a great job in the classroom, and he's got football and basketball, and he's doing a great job in both of them. So Joe Wolshai. And the last of our juniors, Ryan Mitchell, is a person that has one of those, I think, athletic bodies that, boy, this coach, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be in some place, I'm telling you, making a lot of money. So he's got to have his knee scoped on Friday, and hopefully they can get that knee taken care of and get him back on the road to a healthy return. And I think that the biggest thing that I would say about Ryan is that he gains that confidence in himself, and that goes along with maturity. I mean, you get up here and you've been successful all the way up through, and all of a sudden you hit the wall. And the wall is that you just don't see. I mean, I want to tell you something. You know, I know Jeff Smith was upset about the fact that, you know, I said Dominic Brown was one, but I'm telling you, Dominic Brown is somebody you're going to see play on Saturday and possibly play on Sunday, unless he just completely wrecks his life. This kid is 6'5", probably 240 pounds, and can run. I mean, he can run. This is the type of people that we play. And there's a lot of players like Dominic Brown out there. And so Ryan, he had a tough role to fill when he had to fill in for John. And, you know, everybody was saying, oh, he didn't play hard enough and everything. You know, that's not what we wanted him to do at that particular time. And it wasn't easy to play tight end and when we're trying to come off tackle and everything and run the zone play. That's the crucial part of that, of the whole offense. And that was one of the reasons without Mike and John for that East Lansing game, because in that offense, Mike is usually in the slot and John will be tight on the other side, and boy, that's where you work those seams and those delays and everything. And so I think that he did a great job this year. He learned a lot. Hopefully that next year he will be that star burning brightly like the rest of the juniors and our 2 sophomores and other sophomores that played for the JVs this year. So Ryan Mitchell. Okay. Just keep going. You need to stand up at all? I can do it if you can do it, right? All right, now we'll get to those seniors. I didn't forget any underclassmen, did I? Okay. So now we'll go numerically and continue on. And we've got my first one, Josh Updegrove, who played defensive line last year. He said, Coach, I'll play any place. And that's what your sons are about. Yeah, I think they just want to get out there and they want to play. And Josh got out there and he played and he went, and I said, now, Josh, you know it's going to be tough with some of those older guys and Esper and McLeod and them. And he said, I don't care, wherever I can get a chance to play. And then he went to the defensive camps this summer, and he proved to those guys and won awards out there. And I know that Coach Disworth coming in, one of the advantages that he had is that he doesn't prejudge anybody, and just said, let me see all those guys go out there. And came back and said, Josh Updegrove, he's one of the 3 best defensive backs to go back there. And he had an outstanding season for us. And he just is a person that I think I couldn't talk about anybody exemplifying more in what I would like to have an athlete. A student and a person that gives 100% all the time. There's so many kids that sit up here that do that. And there aren't many that don't do that. And so if we didn't have what we wanted to have as far as success went, I wouldn't play any of it on them. And so Josh just had an outstanding, he has been an absolute pleasure to work with over these last few years, and to have in class and to see the way that his work ethic, he's going to be a highly successful person. Josh Updegrove. When they asked about one of our captains one game, and I said number 6, and they looked over and they said, that big guy? And so Nate Jensen had probably one of the toughest jobs to do on the football team. He had to learn all the things that Coach Bird was telling him, and some of the other guys were carrying calculators to practice to try to figure stuff out, and Nate, he had her all down. He knew it from the running backs, the tight ends, the wide receivers, and so I know a lot of times he was able to help a lot of players out there on the field, but he's another one that we will sorely miss next year because of his versatility and also his leadership. The only reason I didn't pick captains, there's no way that I could have singled out any 4 seniors and sent them out there for every single game. It just wouldn't have been fair to the way that they came in the weight room, 7-on-7. I mean, whatever we asked them to do. Somebody said, well, geez, doesn't it count to be a good student athlete? In this group, a good student athlete that's the mean. I mean, those guys, they're all up there. I get these college coaches and I start saying, well, what grade point average does Coleman have? What grade point average does Wolscheid have? What grade point average does Eisler have? What grade point average does Miller have? And I start always all 3 5s, 3 6s, 3 8s, and the guy goes, "No, coach." Right away I could tell by the tone of his voice, he already figures that I'm senile, right? Don't laugh at that, right? Ellsworth? So, we have probably the best group of student athletes that we've ever had, and Nate is a great example of a person that has done everything for us for 3 years. And he's played offense, defense, you name it. He's been willing to do anything that his teammates would need from him. Nate Jensen. Next, one of our players wrote me a letter last spring, and I still have it. It's still in my room and still on my desk. And Ryan Mooney had some great expectations of what his senior year was going to be about and what he thought it would be about. And I think that when I said to the seniors in that letter that life is not fair, certainly he would be first and foremost. I mean, he played under a system where there was one quarterback, and we made a decision and said, Brad's going to go out there and he's going to play virtually every down as long as he's healthy and we're not ahead by 40 points. And so Ryan took his turn, he sat there, he waited, and he was ready. And he went to everything and once again was a leader in the weight room and everything. And then the season came along, and it certainly wasn't what he expected it to be. And he worked through the rough times, but I'll tell you this, on the sidelines, when he came back, he was as encouraging to Matt and as anything. I'm proud of those 2 guys because of the way that they conducted themselves and the way that they acted. Down the road, this will be more for his personality, his character, and for his manhood than just about anything else, because you and I all know that we get times that it just doesn't seem like it's fair, and it's not always fair. And those kids did a great job of handling that adversity. And I have nothing but respect for him. If I thought that giving up coaching and things were going to make life fair, for any of the kids, I'd be the first one to say that this is the way it's got to be. But it wasn't that way, and he handled it, I thought. And people, well, he made a mistake. Yeah, he made a mistake. But how many mistakes did I make in the course of the season? I can't count them all. I just felt terrible. I just felt at the season that I never got in sync. I never got in sync with the other coaches, and there were just at times when I didn't give the kids the edge. And if you're good at your job, you know that you better, as we told the kids before the playoff game, the man in the mirror, you better look in that mirror first, and you better start with yourself, and before you go to the kids. And that's what coaching is all about. But I'm going to miss him. I feel bad for him that didn't end up this way, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be down the road something that he'll build on, and it'll make him a better person, and maybe even that he'll decide to try his hand in coaching. I know that we all think about that as coaches. But Ryan, thank you for the 2 great years, and appreciate all the things that you did. Ryan Mooney. Next, one of our seniors. I think at one time, we tried him at tight end, and he went a little bit out at the split end position. And that was the nice thing about the receivers. We had a pretty good group of guys that worked hard, and I don't think that we ever had, in all my years, and I go back to whether it was under Coach Krupa or Coach Barrett, that we had so many guys that showed up all the time and worked as hard as this group of guys did. And I think it says something about their friendship to each other and the way that they just viewed in their enjoyment for football. And as an old quarterback, I know that one of the things that was most enjoyable was go out and throw that football around and catch that football. And I think that this is something that we're not going to get away from. We're going to stay and concentrate on making sure that Grand Ledge football is going to be ready, that when we need that corner and we're going to make that edge, and it'll happen. And sooner or later it will happen because the kids that we have that work hard at it. But Josh Charter had an outstanding last 2 years of coming to practice, working hard, and just being a true teammate and person that was for his teammates all the way. So, Josh Charter, thank you, Josh. Another one of our wide receivers spent hours upon hours of going in and working hard to improve himself. And so I think that those guys are a true credit. The way that the seniors worked, we would like nothing better than to have them been undefeated and gone to the Silver Dome and things like that. But by the time that we look at all the things that they have given us in their career, we're and I think Justin was more frustrated last year, and although he thought that the quarterbacks sometimes were blind, but is that right, Justin? You and Rodney sitting together then right away. Yeah, throw me the ball. Okay. But Justin did an outstanding job of weight room and 7-on-7 and everything, and was a great person to have on the team. Justin Gull. And his partner in crime will throw me the ball. Rodney thought that there were times that there was a definite conspiracy about why that, but Rodney is another one. Couldn't have worked harder. Last year he lost his starting position, but he did not for 1 second give up running hard in sprints, being the first ones. And those guys coming to all the 7-on-7 and all the things that they did all spring, summer, and winter. Made it so that's what I feel worse about that is that they didn't get what they deserved, and they deserve to have a lot more success. Their success is not in wins and losses. Their success is in the way that they treated each other, the way they treated their coaches, the way that they acted, the way they conducted themselves. And they just were a classy group of kids. And I can mention that for Rodney, that Brighton, they didn't want to, they doubted whether we had the accurate things to say and everything. And after we talked to the Michigan High School Athletic Association and they listened to the tape, they were still saying that when the letter they said, well, we're sorry that we may have acted inappropriately, but if the incident really happened, well, did the incident happen? It was on tape and Channel 6 had it. So, but that just shows that Rodney has a lot more class than beating Grand Ledge is not being Grand Ledge. And Rodney reflects his teammates for keeping his composure and being just a pleasure to be around the last couple of years. So, Rodney Missman. 3-year starter. Nate Williams probably had as high as expectations as Coach O'Keefe did. And I know that after we lost those 2 games and the other younger players started to get in there, I know that it took a lot of the enjoyment away from him. He still was a person that tried to do the best he could to encourage his younger teammates and to hang in there and work through the adversity that the senior season gave to him. And Nate is a great student athlete. He's another person. I know he's disappointed in the way that the season went, but so were we. And not disappointed in him, but just at the way that the season went. We suffered and ended up having some of adversities that haven't happened to us in a long time. It was just one of those seasons that the disappointment level, and when you have those high expectations, those guys, we couldn't have asked them to do anything more and contribute any more than the seniors did. And so Nate stuck through it. He kept, in the long run, it's going to prove an invaluable asset to him down the road because it's going to make him a stronger person. And I know that when Nate looks at the man in the mirror, that he'll know that he did his best, and over the last 4 years, he's been a great contributor to Grand Ridge football. I just hope that when the kids came home from Brighton, I heard them laugh for the first time like in a month. You know, I stayed in the coach's office. You know, a lot of times when I was younger, I probably would have thought to the fact that, you know, laughing after you lose. I mean, what is this? Blasphemy. But it was the first time I'd heard those kids laugh. And I won't even tell you what Mike Ballou said. Did you dress in your jammies? Did you stay in your jammies all day? Okay. I'll get you yet, Mike. But that was the first time I heard them laugh in the month. The pressure was off their shoulders finally. The season had come to an end. And they could finally relax and go back to those lovable kids that we know that they are, and it was nothing words couldn't tell you. I mean, all you had to do was look at people's faces on the field at Brighton, and you could tell that all those emotions were all there, all pent up, all hung up, and after 6 or 7 years, it finally had come to an end. But I still think that football player still burns there inside of Nate's heart, and hopefully he'll continue to pursue it, as we would hope that all the guys do. And it's a great game, and he gave it his best, and I'm proud of him for that, and sure appreciated working with him. Nate Williams. So I didn't know if Mrs. Miller was more excited about putting on the banquet or putting the music to that video. You did see, I mean, David Bedford dancing. David, where was that? Did you do that on purpose? Huh? Well, I don't know who got a bigger kick out of that, Mrs. Henney and Mrs. Miller, but they sure love that. And David has had 2 years of varsity play and has done an excellent job. And I know that if we would have an opportunity to polish that offense, which we hopefully will continue in the future, to be able to throw the football as well as we did. I mean, it was amazing for us at times to see those kids score like in 40 and 45 seconds. At one time they're down in Jackson, Coach Bird just made the comment about we just go into 2-minute offense and then we scored in what, 40 seconds? It was like 39, 40 seconds that we covered 70 yards or something. So the kids worked hard at that, and it'll pay off for us in the long run. And we just have to get more in tune and more in sync with it to make it work both ways. But that's what it takes, and especially at our level, where you can't be one-dimensional. That just doesn't happen. So it's too tough a football league that we play in, and the competition that we play is the best. So David's had 2 excellent years, and we appreciate all the hard work that he has done, and he's done it on the defensive side and the offensive side both. And so David Bedford. In keeping with those seniors and the way that when Gary came over to play defense, I know that he realized that I think that his first love is to run the football, and then he got an opportunity to run the football, and Gary Berquist not only stepped up, but he brought some real excitement to our team and did a great job for us, and you can't get any better than this. And I mean that truthfully, as far as your sons, they have raised the bar, they have raised the standard, and it's going to hurt us in the next couple of years to think that although we're fortunate to have those 2 classes back to back that are outstanding student athletes and everything, but boy, these guys have set a standard that is almost insurmountable. I wouldn't want anybody to try to pass them. I just would like somebody to try to equal them. But Gary and his classmates have been the best that you could work with. And so his last couple years here at Grand Ledge High School and all throughout his career, he's given nothing but 100%, which I can proudly say that that's every one of our kids is that kind of person. So he's had 2 great years, and we appreciate all that he did, and he gave us some great runs this year. Gary Berquist. I think that Stump probably didn't have anything that bothered him all last year. Where's Stump at? Stump, did you get hurt at all last fall? No. Yeah, it always, if you get hurt, you want to get hit in your junior year, not so much in your senior year. You missed 1 game because of injury and slowed him a little bit. But Stump has played as hard, and last year was a great year for him. This year was a lot tougher, just from the standpoint that it seemed like we put him up against a lot of big defensive or offensive ends, playing that defensive end like he and Bill did. And I thought that was one of the major weaknesses that the conference had last year, and was much stronger at this year. But Stump has had 2 outstanding years for us defensively, and playing on the ends. He and Bill are going to be sorely missed, and we're probably going to really have to work hard in trying to replace our bookends on the defensive line. But he's had great years for us, and we appreciate the fact that he was such an intense player and played so hard. And we'll miss him, and I'm hoping that maybe he'll go on and play some more. That's the one thing I'd like to see the guys do. You know, we've placed a lot of football players in college over the last 5-6 years, and I hope that will continue on. And if the guys want to play, just make sure that it's okay with you, that they don't decide that they're going to go to play at the University of Hawaii. Yeah, well, it'd be nice to visit them, but we'll certainly work hard at trying to find them a place to play. But I'd like to see Stump keep playing because he has a heart for the game. Stump McLean. Next guy would bug Coach Baumgart all the time about running 30 trap. He wanted to run 30 trap every time he would be standing next to Coach Baumgart. Put me in there. And so I'd see him look at Donnie Lee and he'd say, now you're going to go in there and you're going to make sure that you get that. Donnie Lee's goal in life was to spring one of those inside traps and to run for a touchdown or a first down. Where is it? First down, touchdown, positive yardage. See there, Coach Baumgart? It was that, in the, which game was it, the Everett game? That you finally let him have that. So we said, Doug, you're strong safety. No, I didn't run a 30 trap. So I don't know what happened, but it was not pretty. I mean, there was people spinning around and everything. And of course, all this training that he's doing, for the police academy or whatever, I thought maybe that somebody shot him out there or something, but he was spinning around in the middle of the line, and then I see Coach Baumgart just shaking his head, and you could hear Donnie Lee the minute he was coming off the field. He was already telling about what happened. And Coach Baumgart and I were not buying into that very much, but he certainly has been a pleasure to be around the team and on the team, and we stuck to all the things that these guys have been committed to, is come out, practice every day, work hard. I mean, guys, keep their mouth shut and just, guys speak up for themselves and whatever, that's great. Coaches don't mind that. I mean, it's just a pleasure to be around a bunch of players that have as much camaraderie as they have. You know, you're always trying to build that, and that's something that this senior class certainly has. And exhibited. So, Donnie Lee, thank you for the last 2 years. And when you get to be the chief of police of Grand Ledge, remember us. So Mike's sitting there in the locker room. I'm in the coach's office. And he says he's going to stay in his pajamas all day. I'm thinking, is that Mike Ballou talking like that? He goes, for 4 years, I have never gone home after school. I've never gone home after school in 4 years. I've been in the weight room, been, to a football practice, game, whatever that it is, for 4 years. So he's telling these guys he's going to go home, get in his pajamas, eat junk food, and stay up till like 10 o'clock. Was that what it was, Nate? Was 10 o'clock? Was that how late you were going to stay up? Higher? Ooh, might have been 11. I mean, he was going to live, the high life. He was really going to go for it. I'm sitting in there trying to think of, keep all the shower curtain and everything away from me, from hanging from the shower curtain, and Mike's out there, and then I finally thought to myself, this is the first time I heard those guys laugh in a month. And then I started laughing at them, and then, of course, then Jeff Pettit joined in, and I didn't know what the conversation was from there on. It didn't make any sense to me, but I felt all right. But Mike, his injury, I'm telling you, they might as well have, if anybody could have put a arrow right in our heart, and so I'm telling my brother about it down at the Notre Dame game and everything, and I said, our running back, he got this high ankle sprain, and he goes, you won the game 63-13. I said, John, please, was it at the end of the first quarter? Second quarter? Third quarter. Oh, you weren't in good enough shape then. But that certainly put a crimp in. The high ankle sprains, the ankle joint sprain is, Jason could tell you that you can rehab them. Those high ankle sprains, you just cannot push off of those. That's the same one, that Derek has had. And you don't have any push. And for somebody playing tailback to not have any push, I mean, that was just something that really hurt us and everything. But Mike worked through it and came back, and he's probably as good a conditioned athlete as we have on our team. And nobody worked any harder. He's a great role model for the younger kids, and hopefully they'll see that it's paid off for him. And here again, I'm sure that he hopes to play at the next level, and I certainly would like to see him get that kind of an opportunity. But he's been a pleasure to be around for the last 3 years. And when they talked about him playing on the defensive side of the ball, that was what happened when he got hurt. We were thinking about bringing him over there and playing him some more on defense, but it didn't work out that way. But Mike has been a great 3 years, so thank you very much. Next one of our seniors, I come from a family of 6, so I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. My 2 sisters were probably better athletes than I was until maybe junior or senior year in high school. I mean, my sisters taught me how to play ball. I mean, they got out there and they played with us and everything from tackle and everything. So I know that when they talk about liberation and doing that, this was a long time ago that they showed me that. So I'm the 4th in line, so I know how Paul feels, and having to always be in Andy's shadow. And my youngest brother was the biggest of all of the O'Keefe boys, and he was like 6'5". And all through beginning like in his 9th grade and 10th grade year, everybody said, "Oh, this kid is so lazy, he can't do this, he doesn't do it like his brothers and his sisters did." And being the 6th in line, so I can have some empathy for Paul having to follow behind Andy. And my brother then was diagnosed of having diabetes, severe youth diabetes. And so he ended up not playing sports because of his diabetes. But Paul stuck it out and came out there, and I don't think that Coach Loney or I had ever said one time in 2 years that we needed somebody someplace that Paul wasn't the first one to jump right up there and get in there. And so I know that down to Brighton was a disappointment for him, and that he didn't get in the last game of his senior year, and I have to accept the responsibility for that. And those are things that you really feel bad about as a coach after it's over. You're thinking, wow, we don't want those guys to score 50 points. Well, they were going to score 50 points whether they had to extend the game for 5 more minutes. I mean, that's just the way they are. So I apologize to him for that, and that it is more important to those of us that in coaching and have our own kids, and we realize that those things are oversights that not only are embarrassing for them, but they're just a point of stupidity for us. And so, and that doesn't set well with me. And but for the last 2 years, he's just done a great job, and has overcome, a lot of people that were jealous, and they don't like that he talks about his brother. They don't like that he talks about Michigan. But you know what? That's still that's a sense of or source of pride that people have. And I'd be bragging about my brother too if he was down at the University of Michigan, being the first Grand Ledge full scholarship player to play at the U of M. So, but Paul's done a great job the last 2 years. Paul Brown. Plus, he showed Coach Bird up by having a sport coat on. And, look at there, Coach Bird, you can wear a sport coat. You look great in sync. Next one of our seniors led our team in tackles this year with 69 tackles, and Justin had an outstanding year, and he battled through some injuries and things, and just like all the seniors did. I know that he had high expectation, and he's another one that if I could clone him and say to the younger kids, be like Justin Mullins. That's who I would like them to be like, just like I'd like them to be like almost all of these seniors that came in that weight room and did those things and worked at it all year round. And so Justin has just been an outstanding person to work with, and he did a great job for us. And as we'll talk about when we talk about all conference players, a lot of the people in the CAC remembered him well, and of course he's going to be rewarded for that. But he's another one of our kids. Doesn't say much. In fact, Coach Ditz and I were talking all year long, Coach Lonier, about, well, you guys just say something on the defensive side. And they were the quietest bunch of guys that you could ever have over there. But you can't get a better group of guys than what the seniors are and the way that they work this year. So, Justin Mullins. That does it for all the slim trim. Now we're going to start talking about the full-figured men. The big heavies. We already talked about Luke, so his mom can't get upset about we calling Luke one of the big heavies because he's already gone by and we didn't say anything about him. So these guys we will strongly miss. And I know that it has been his pleasure in working with the offensive line. And there are rumors that Olivet College has tried to steal Coach Bongard from us, And so if you see him this evening before he leaves, bug him about sticking around. That he'll have more fun in Grand Ledge than he will over there at Olivet College. But the first one certainly is a person that when we dressed these guys as sophomores, we were just trying to get them to look at what it was like to be in the big time and to have that kind. Those guys were doing a super job at the JV level, and certainly the seniors had a great JV season. But Andy Eisler is a person that's not only going to be an outstanding football player, I think at the next level, he could wrestle at the next level, and he just somebody that once again, if Grand Ledge young kids could emulate as they're coming up and our senior class, we'd be really happy. And we say that our junior class has that kind of work ethic too, and we're proud of that. So Andy's had a great season for us, and also when we talk about the all-league team, that'll be another thing that almost every coach in the, I don't know if Myers and Smith were trying to get, that knife and just kind of twist it around and everything, and they kept saying, yeah, you guys had the best offensive line. Yeah, well, yes, we did. And we're proud of those guys and the contribution that they made and for the whole senior class. But Andy Eisler's had 2 outstanding seasons for us, and we're looking forward to watching him in wrestling this winter. But he's been a great player for us. Andy Eisler. Next of our seniors was in that predicament that once we lost those 2 games, to East Lansing and to Sexton, I decided that those young underclassmen were going to have to play because we couldn't be left with inexperience going into next year in the CAC. And so Neil had to give up a lot of playing time to, and there were several guys in the defensive line that all had pretty good equal abilities, and so we tried to rotate them as much, and that's just not a lot of fun. And but I thought that he worked hard, and like all the other guys, had to share his time, and that's not what you think about. When you go into your senior year, you think about playing all the time. And so when things don't work out that way, and they didn't for a lot of the senior players this year, it was, I'm sure I could see the disappointment and the hurt in his face and his eyes. But we also have to make sure that we prepare our team for next year, because nobody will have any mercy for us. At Grand Ledge, they expect us to be a challenge to them, and we expect ourselves to be a challenge to them as well. So Neil Costello has played hard these last couple of years, and it's been a pleasure coaching him, and I hope that he's another one that thinks about continuing on like a lot of the other players that have that ability to do. So Neil Costello. Ben Holman spent a lot of time on the defensive side last year, and then came over and once again, you know, it's either feast or famine sometimes at the high school level. You wish that you could say, okay, we'll take these guys this year, and we certainly did have a lot of outstanding offensive linemen, and when Andy missed a game and Ben filled in for him, he did a super job, and there's another one of those student athletes that we have a world of respect for, and he just amazes us that how many times that these guys that going through the halls and seeing them every day, it's a pleasure to work around them. It's a pleasure to be involved with them. They certainly are young people that the community, if the community only knew, you know, that day of you know, the dumb jocks and the guys that you know, couldn't pass their classes or anything, and if they only knew about how that the student athlete at Grand Ledge High School represents themselves and the way that they conduct themselves. And Ben Holman is another one that's a prime example of the senior class and what a classy bunch of kids that they are. So we're going to sorely miss him next year, just his presence and his demeanor around the football team. Ben Holman. In that same category of outstanding young men, Brian Uvan was in my history class last year, and Brian is another one of those great students. And you know, you never get tired of saying that about young men that have contributed so much to the program. And these guys have, since they were that high, remember that, moms and dads, when they went out there for the first time in Marshfield, some of them in the third grade, I think. Didn't some of you start third grade? Fourth? See, I put them to sleep back here. Who, me? But they played this all the way up through and everything. And I think at times it was a pleasure just to, and I think Brian, where's you, Brian? Were you also back there? Yeah, he was in on with, so he can stick up for me when I talk about Mike staying in his pajamas all and eating junk food and staying up till 11 o'clock or something, till the news came on, then he'd have to go to bed. But so Brian, once again, has been a real pleasure to work with, and certainly in keeping with the great class of 2000, somebody that I've had a great respect for and working with the last couple of years and seeing him grow and develop through our Grand Ledge football program. Brian Uvan. Four-year starter and Grand Ledge varsity is certainly not many things that many players could say. And Greg has had a great career here at Grand Ledge, and certainly in recognition for all the things that, just like getting past that corner, turning that corner, and crossing that line, once you start to get some players like Andy Brown and Jake McLean and players like that go to Division I and start to have some success, you know, then there's going to be other people that are going to follow. And I think that our guys have all played against some of the best competition in the state. They go up against those guys, they aren't going to flinch. They're not going to be afraid. I mean, what are our guys going to go and be afraid of some of the top talent in the country? We have some of the top talent in the country playing right here in the mid-Michigan area in this AA football. So I don't think that it's going to be anything that our players are going to be afraid of. And they can go to the next level. They've gone to the camps. We've encouraged them to go to camps. We take them to the lineman's camp at Albion College and let them see other people, some of the cream of the crop. And they know that our kids can compete with them. So Greg's going to get that opportunity. I don't know where. And he certainly has, like many of his classmates, the grades to go wherever he wants to go. And that's important, and I hope the younger players are listening to that and taking note of that, because that's a key thing. You don't want to get to the point where it comes time to graduate and you don't have the grades to play at the next level. So Greg Miller has 4 great years for us. Greg.